Creflo Dollar, the internationally recognized televangelist, has suddenly become the focus of public conversation, but not for the reasons you might expect. Serious allegations have made headlines, casting a shadow over his ministry, World Changers Church International, and thrusting it into a full-blown scandal. These accusations have led many to question everything: his leadership, his integrity, and whether the public ever truly knew him at all. In this video, we're delving into all the startling details surrounding the incident that set everything in motion. Grab some popcorn, because you'll want to see how it all unfolds. Creflo Augustus Dollar Jr., born on January 28, 1962, in College Park, Georgia, has become one of the most talked-about figures in televangelism. You've likely heard his name in discussions of faith or even finances. Dollar is the founder and senior pastor of World Changers Church International, WCCI, a non-denominational Christian church based in College Park, just outside of Atlanta. His journey from starting a modest ministry in a school cafeteria to building one of the US's most influential Christian empires is a remarkable story. In 1986, Dollar launched World Changers Ministries Christian Center, holding the first worship service in the cafeteria of Kathleen Mitchell Elementary School with only 8 people present. But when someone believes they are called to do something, even a humble beginning can lead to big things, and Dollar certainly believed so. Recently, devastating news about Pastor Creflo Dollar has shocked his fans and followers. The implications for his future and the ministry he has dedicated his life to are profound. We're exploring the details that matter, and you won't want to miss a moment as this story unfolds, revealing themes of resilience and faith that resonate deeply. In the years following its establishment, Dollar's church experienced rapid growth. Before long, he renamed it World Changers Church International, WCCI, and moved the congregation into a dedicated chapel as more people flocked to hear his messages. A significant milestone came on December 24, 1995, when WCCI moved into what is now their current home, an 8,500-seat facility known as the World Dome. This was no ordinary building. At nearly $20 million, the World Dome was constructed without any bank financing, fully funded by church members, reflecting their belief in Dollar's vision. By 2007, WCCI had grown to a congregation of about 30,000 members, a number more akin to a small town. The financial side of things was substantial as well. In 2006 alone, the church reported gross cash collections of $70 million. Dollar's reach extended far beyond his church through his television program, Changing Your World, which broadcasts to nearly 1 billion homes globally, a platform most ministers could only dream of. One aspect of Dollar's teachings that stands out is his strong advocacy for the prosperity gospel. You may have heard of it, the doctrine that suggests God promises wealth and success to those who follow certain principles, like giving generously to ministries. Dollar has been a leading voice for this teaching and has authored numerous books on it, including Love, The Life-Changing Power Star. The book emphasizes how God's love can transform lives and help believers reach their destiny, financially and otherwise. It's no surprise, then, that his sermons often address overcoming financial struggles by applying biblical principles, which many find appealing as financial advice. However, with great influence often comes great controversy. Over the years, Dollar has faced criticism, especially for his luxurious lifestyle, which includes Rolls-Royces, a private jet, and high-end real estate. This lifestyle has prompted some to question whether a man of God should live so lavishly. In 2007, controversy intensified when Dollar's ministry was among 6 televangelism organizations investigated by the U.S. Senate Finance Committee, led by Senator Chuck Grassley, to determine whether these ministries were abusing their tax-exempt status. Dollar contested the investigation, arguing that the IRS, not the Senate, should examine religious organizations. Though the investigation concluded in 2011 without charges, it undoubtedly raised questions. Beyond financial scrutiny, Dollar's personal life has also seen controversy. In 2012, he made headlines when he was arrested for allegedly assaulting one of his daughters. It was a shocking incident that drew widespread attention. Although he was required to attend anger management sessions, the charges were dropped the following year. In 2022, Dollar created another stir by publicly retracting his long-standing teachings on tithing. After years of preaching that tithing was necessary, he announced that he had been mistaken, stating that tithing is not biblically mandated but rather a personal choice. This reversal left many followers wondering what else might change in his teachings. Creflo Dollar's life and ministry have been marked by impressive growth and considerable controversy. Regardless of public opinion, his impact on modern Christian ministry is undeniable. Recently, heartbreaking news has left this prominent pastor facing a challenging moment. From the impact on his ministry to how his followers are responding, this update is one you won't want to miss. Stay with us until the end, as the emotional weight of this news will surely touch your heart. In the early hours of a quiet Friday morning, an unsettling incident took place at Pastor Creflo Dollar's home in Fayette County, Georgia, sending shockwaves through his family and community. Imagine being a 15-year-old so distressed that you pick up the phone and dial 911 on your own parent. That's precisely what Pastor Dollar's daughter did around 1 a.m., claiming that she felt unsafe in her own home. She alleged that a disagreement with her father escalated to a physical confrontation over her desire to attend a party. What began as a typical teenage argument with a parent quickly spiraled out of control. The daughter's account of the events was distressing. According to her, when her father forbade her from attending the party, the argument intensified, and she claimed Dollar physically assaulted her. She alleged that he charged at her, grabbed her throat, and punched her. She even claimed he struck her with a shoe. When the police arrived, they noted a scratch on her neck, which seemed to support her story, and documented it as part of their investigation. Although it was a minor mark, it was sufficient for law enforcement to arrest Dollar on charges of simple battery, family violence, and cruelty to children. Dollar, however, contested this detail, asserting that the scratch was due to a pre-existing skin condition rather than the argument. So, who was telling the truth? As if the situation wasn't already complicated enough, Dollar's older daughter, Lexandria, also played a key role in the unfolding drama. Initially, Lexandria supported her younger sister's claims, telling the police that she had witnessed her father choking the 15-year-old for several seconds. She reported seeing him grab her sister by the shoulders, slap her, and throw her to the ground when she tried to escape. Alexandria even stated that their mother, Taffy Dollar, had to intervene to end the altercation. However, when it came time for Alexandria to provide a written statement, her account shifted, aligning more closely with her father's version of events. The police report noted that Alexandria's parents were present when she wrote her first statement, raising questions about whether their proximity influenced her. Later, when asked to provide a second statement without her parents nearby, Alexandria reverted to her original account, once again supporting her sister's claims. This inconsistency in Alexandria's statements added further complexity to an already difficult situation. It's no surprise that an incident like this caused a huge stir within Pastor Dollar's congregation and the wider Christian community. How often does one hear of a prominent religious leader facing such serious allegations? The situation sparked conversations around accountability and the complexities of addressing domestic disputes, particularly when they involve high-profile figures like Pastor Dollar. It made people question the balance between the public persona of a spiritual leader and the realities of their private life. As the news spread, it became clear that this incident was about more than one family's struggle. It highlighted the complicated intersection of faith, leadership, and family dynamics. Domestic arguments happen in all families, but when these disputes turn physical and become public, they raise uncomfortable questions about what truly happens behind closed doors, even in the homes of respected figures. The fallout from this incident left many wondering where the line lies between personal responsibility and public persona, especially in a world where religious leaders are often held to a higher standard. In response to the allegations, Pastor Creflo Dollar shared his own version of what transpired that night, painting a very different picture from the accusations initially made by his daughter and supported by her older sister. According to Dollar, the incident was a family discussion that got out of hand, nothing more. He described the situation as starting with an emotional conversation between him and his youngest daughter. Yes, there was an argument, he admitted. It began when he told her she couldn't attend a party, a message not likely to sit well with a teenager. Dollar emphasized that the escalation was due to the emotional exchange, not physical violence. He described it as a heated but ultimately harmless exchange, stating, "The truth is that a family conversation with our youngest daughter got emotional. Pastor Dollar firmly denied the serious allegations of physical violence, rejecting claims that he choked, punched, or slammed his daughter. Instead, he explained that when she began to hit him, he restrained her, as any parent might do in a tense moment. He even admitted to wrestling her to the floor and spanking her, a practice still accepted by some parents, though it remains controversial. Shortly after his arrest, Dollar told his congregation, "I should have never been arrested," indicating that he felt his arrest was a mistake and suggesting that larger forces were at play. In his view, this incident was part of a spiritual attack aimed at discrediting his ministry. Regarding the physical evidence, the neck marks observed by the responding deputy, Dollar offered an explanation. While he didn't deny that marks were visible, he argued that they were not the result of physical altercation. Rather, he claimed the marks were from a pre-existing skin condition his daughter had dealt with for some time. The only thing on her neck was a prior skin abrasion from eczema, he said. Throughout the ordeal, Dollar assured his congregation that everything was fine in his household, saying, "All is well in the Dollar household." He emphasized his love for his children and described his efforts to set boundaries and make sound decisions as a father. Interestingly, he stated he wasn't upset with his daughter for calling the police, leaving people to wonder whether this was a moment of grace or simply an attempt to preserve his image. Either way, he seemed intent on conveying that family came first, regardless of the surrounding controversy. In framing the entire situation, Pastor Dollar portrayed it as not just a personal attack but a spiritual one. He reassured his followers that, when the facts of this come out, you will be appalled, implying that something greater was at stake. Dollar believed that the incident was an attempt to undermine his message of grace, asserting, "It's not so much against me as it is against this message of grace." To him, this was not merely a family dispute but a spiritual battle, an effort by external forces to diminish his ministry by targeting him personally. As the story unfolded, the conflicting accounts from Pastor Dollar and his daughters created more questions than answers. It wasn't just about what happened that night. It was also about what was at stake for Dollar, his family, and his ministry. People began to ask, how do high-profile families, especially those in religious circles, handle domestic disputes? And what happens when those disputes become public? For now, Dollar stood by his account, denying any wrongdoing and expressing confidence that the truth would eventually emerge. Whether his version of events would hold up in the court of public opinion or an actual courtroom remained to be seen. In the midst of this controversy, more surprising news emerged that caught many off guard. After years of preaching about the importance of tithing and teaching his congregation to give 10% of their income to the church, Pastor Dollar recently stated that he had been wrong. This message, central to his teachings on prosperity and blessings, had been a foundational part of his ministry. Through books, tapes, and videos, Dollar promoted the idea that tithing was a biblical practice that could lead to financial blessings. But in a recent Sunday service, he confessed that he had been misled and had led others astray, now saying that tithing is not a New Testament requirement for modern Christians. This shift in teaching was unexpected, considering Dollar's long-standing stance on the subject, leaving many to question the evolution of his message and what it meant for his ministry. The name of his sermon was "The Great Misunderstanding," which couldn't be more appropriate. He referenced Romans 6, verses 14 to explain why he's now taking a different stance. "For sin shall not have dominion over you, for ye are not under the law but under grace." In other words, Christians today live under grace, not under the laws of the Old Testament, and according to him, tithing falls under those old laws. This is huge because tithing has always been preached as a biblical requirement, as something believers had to do, a duty they owed to God. But here's Dollar saying that's not the case. He's basically saying, look, you don't need to tithe like that anymore. The idea that giving 10% is a requirement comes from the Old Testament, but under the new covenant of grace, it's not necessary. And then, get this, he even went so far as to tell his congregation to throw away all the books, tapes, and videos he made on the subject. You know how much material that is? He's been preaching this for decades. So, to now turn around and say, forget everything I've been teaching you on this topic, is massive. It's like a complete 180 for him. What's really making waves is not just that he's admitting he was wrong, but how many people are affected by this. Think about it, for years, millions of people have been listening to him, giving their 10% faithfully because they believed it was what God wanted, based on his teachings. People trusted him, built their financial giving habits around his message, and now he's saying, "Whoops, that was a misunderstanding." The reactions have been wild. On one hand, you've got some people who are relieved, like, finally. I've been struggling with the idea of tithing, and now one of the biggest proponents is saying it's not necessary. That's freeing. But on the other hand, you've got a lot of folks who are upset, confused, even angry. They've given thousands, maybe even more, believing it would bring them blessings, and now they're being told, actually, that wasn't required by the Bible after all. Not to mention, this isn't just a private thing, it's public. The video of his confession is out there for everyone to see. So now the larger Christian world, especially those critical of prosperity preachers, is weighing in. Some are saying it's about time he admitted it, while others are wondering if this is just a way to pivot his message for a new era. You know, stay relevant by shaking things up. But here's the thing, he's not saying people should stop giving altogether. He made that clear. In his confession, he pointed out that even though tithing isn't required, generosity is still important. It's just that now, he's framing it as an act of grace, something you do from your heart, not because you feel obligated by some Old Testament law. What's interesting is how this plays into his larger message of grace. If you look at his shift, it's like he's trying to align more with the New Testament idea of grace over law. Instead of making people feel like they have to give a certain percentage, he's saying give out of love, give because you want to, not because you think God is going to be angry if you don't. The ripple effects of this are huge, especially for other preachers and ministries that have also built their message around tithing. Dollar isn't just any preacher, he's one of the most high-profile figures in the prosperity gospel movement. So when someone like him makes this kind of confession, it forces others in the same space to re-examine their own teachings. Some are probably scrambling to figure out how they'll address it with their own congregations. In a way, you could say this is sparking a larger conversation within Christianity about the role of money, giving, and the prosperity gospel as a whole. The allegations against Pastor Creflo Dollar were met with various emotions throughout World Changers Church International and the broader Christian community, leaving everyone talking about what really went down. People were stunned. Some didn't know what to believe, while others stood by him without hesitation. The whole situation was tense, to say the least. Naturally, everyone's eyes were on the church to see how they would handle it. Would they come out in full support, or would there be some sort of pause, maybe a bit of doubt creeping in? The reactions from both his loyal supporters and critics were bound to be interesting. So, what did Pastor Dollar do next? Well, he didn't shy away from the spotlight, in fact, he went straight into it. Not long after the incident, during a Sunday service, he addressed the elephant in the room. You could tell he knew everyone was waiting to hear his side of the story. With all the eyes in the church and beyond on him, Dollar didn't waste any time denying the more serious allegations. He made it very clear that he did not choke or punch his daughter, as had been claimed. From his perspective, the whole thing had been blown way out of proportion. He wanted his followers to know that what was being said wasn't exactly how things went down. But here's the thing, do you think that cleared the air for everyone, or did it just raise more questions? He took it a step further too. During his speech, Dollar explained that he never should have been arrested in the first place. Now, that's a pretty bold statement, right? He didn't just stop at denying the allegations, he framed the entire situation as something much bigger. To him, this wasn't just a family dispute gone wrong, this was a full-blown spiritual attack. Dollar told his congregation that this was the devil at work, trying to discredit him and tear down his ministry. And, let's be real, in the Christian community, when you say, the devil is trying to get me, that's going to get some serious attention. His supporters were likely thinking, of course, this is an attack on our pastor and our faith. But at the same time, critics probably saw this as an attempt to deflect from what really happened. Can you imagine sitting in that service? Some must have been nodding their heads in agreement, convinced that this was just a test from the enemy, while others might have felt like something didn't quite add up. Yet, Pastor Dollar's message was loud and clear, he wasn't backing down. He painted the picture of a man under spiritual attack, someone who had been wrongfully accused because of forces beyond what we see. This approach resonated with many of his followers, who probably felt like this wasn't just a scandal, but part of a bigger, cosmic struggle between good and evil. But do you think everyone was convinced? Or were there still lingering doubts even among his most faithful? On one hand, he's trying to clear his name in the most public way possible, but on the other, he's framing it as part of a larger battle. And you know, in moments like these, people tend to rally around their leaders even more. For many, the idea that their pastor was being attacked by spiritual forces only made them want to defend him harder. But for those on the outside looking in, this might have seemed like an attempt to shift the conversation away from the actual incident. Either way, his address made waves, both in and outside of the church. When news of the allegations against Pastor Creflo Dollar broke, the congregation at World Changers Church International had a mixed, but largely supportive, reaction. Many members rallied behind him. It was clear that Pastor Dollar had built a deep sense of loyalty and devotion among his followers, which was on full display as they chose to stand by their leader despite the storm surrounding him. Still, not everyone in the church was entirely comfortable with the situation. Some members expressed concerns, particularly about the potential damage to the church's reputation. After all, how could an institution so focused on grace and values possibly navigate such a public controversy without facing some fallout? It led to quiet discussions among the congregation, where people wondered how to balance their support for their pastor with the serious nature of the allegations. Should they continue to cheer him on, or would it be more responsible to wait for all the facts before rushing to his defense? In the midst of all this, the church leadership stepped in with an official statement. World Changers Church International made it clear that they were still committed to their mission, one built on spreading grace and fostering a loving community. The statement was a delicate tightrope act. On one hand, it reaffirmed their unwavering support for Pastor Dollar, standing by him as their spiritual leader. On one hand, the situation was serious, as the allegations were no small matter. The organization urged its members to allow the legal process to unfold, advising against jumping to conclusions based on rumors or incomplete information. This raises a common challenge: how does one balance faith in someone they respect with the responsibility of taking accusations seriously? In alignment with the church's teachings on grace and forgiveness, the statement was directed not only at Dollar's supporters but also called for understanding and compassion for everyone involved in the incident. Whether one was a firm believer in Dollar's innocence or a skeptical bystander, the message was clear: redemption and healing are possible, even in difficult circumstances. Yet, extending that grace becomes more complex when the individual in question holds a position of power. For many, the church's official response raised further questions about the challenges faced by religious organizations when a leader is under scrutiny. The issue extended beyond mere support for Pastor Dollar; it also concerned the integrity of the church as a whole. Could they maintain the trust of their members while ensuring transparency and accountability? This was a tricky predicament for any organization, especially for a church whose core values center on grace, forgiveness, and love. Striking a balance between supporting their pastor and addressing the serious concerns surrounding the incident proved to be a daunting task. As the legal proceedings progressed, World Changers Church International found itself at a pivotal moment. Would they be able to uphold their mission and values in the midst of such controversy? Could they preserve the faith and trust of their congregation without ignoring the situation? Only time would reveal the answers, but one thing was certain: the path ahead was laden with questions, challenges, and, most importantly, the church's commitment to its principles of grace and compassion. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To explore more thrilling stories, click on the video that appears on your screen now.